All right, so this is going to be a quick demo. I'm still working on this. This is still a work in progress, but it's going to be an update coming to the config helper tool. And this kind of ties into some discussion going on the Crucible. And I know some people are interested in this and trying to figure it out. So you can do all of this by hand yourself. But Frederick's actually working on the style editor for OS7, which is going to make similar capabilities. And actually, I'm using parts of what the style editor already can do, and then fit them into this config tool along with a few other things set up specifically for OS7. But what I'm going after with this OS7 tool is to make it much easier both for the user to use, but also for you to come back and make changes. And particularly, this is going to be talking about using functions, setting up styles in your presets, and the style arguments. I'll do a much longer video with a lot more in-depth explanation once I have the tool done. There's still some bugs. I'm still working through a few things, but I wanted to just kind of show this just so that people who are interested, if you're having difficulty using it or getting it set up, since we are in beta anyway, or if it looks like it's a little bit too much for you, that's what this tool is intended to help. So it can be done by hand. You are able to do all of this yourself. You will be able to do this also through the style editor when the OS7 style editor is done. But the way that's done is a little bit different than how this is done. This is intended to help maintain, update, and make changes to your config very easily, which is the main reason for the tool. But let's go set up an example. So I'm already set up everything above. Watch the other videos related to how this tool works, specifically in the preset section. But in order to get to the preset section, you really need to set everything else up above because it's going to use some of the information related to the number of blades that you have, etc. So what I'm going to do is go to the style library. You can just click here. And I'm going to use an OS6 style just for my purposes. Actually, let's just go. We'll start with something simple in a red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an option style. So if you're not familiar with option styles, that's OS6 stuff. You can learn more about that in some of the other videos. But this particular config is set up for two blades. It's a main blade and then a crystal chamber. So I'm going to set up two using functions and show how these get applied, and then how we can use the using functions to add more to our config, and then also be able to use the style arguments to then have it set up ahead of time. You can do all of this through Workbench. You can do all of it through edit mode. All of this is still available from OS 6. The idea for OS 7, particularly with the style arguments, in working with Frederick, was for those who know what they want ahead of time or don't want to have to go through individually editing after they've uploaded a config. The style arguments in particular give you the ability to now do all of your edits ahead of time. Or if you have your presets INI, which is the file that gets saved in OS 6 when you use edit mode or Workbench, and you want to carry that stuff over, you can also do that. So I don't know if I'll get in depth on all of that, but I'm going to kind of show this just as, again, this is kind of a tease, a sneak peek, because it's not done yet. So this is running on my local machine. So it's getting closer. I just need time, and I've got to debug a few things. So I'm going to build a style. I'm going to build it with some options. So I'm going to give it a couple of ignition options. So we'll do a spark tip. I'm just going to, I'll do like a center out. And let's, come on, wake up. And we'll do a cycle up. And then we'll add some power up options. So we'll do, my browser seems to be a little slow, probably because this is, right, so we'll do a power flash. Do a power surge or power burst, and then we'll do, and you can obviously go through as many options as you want, but I'll do that. And then for retraction, I'll give a couple of retraction effects. And the idea with option styles, for those not familiar, just as a brief thing, is to be able to take a single style, run it in multiple presets, and get completely unique blades out of it. So we'll do a run up, and we'll do a, wish this wasn't moving so slow. We'll do a cycle down. And then we'll add some retraction effects. And you can do this for everything, but I'm going to kind of just give us a couple options just so I can show how this will work. Definitely sleeping on me. Okay, and we'll leave it at that. So what I'm going to do now, you can do this either way. You can just get the style code and the config tool will turn it into a using, or you can get the using function, which has already been available from OS 6 because we're in the OS 6 library, and it'll get the using, but also use the name. So if you want to give it a different name, you could, if you want to use what the library generates. So I'm going to do just a shortcut so it names it itself, and we're going to do a using function, and it's copied. And then we come over here to the tool. I don't know why my browser's so slow today. Maybe because I'm running on local. And then I'm going to activate using functions, and I'm just going to paste from the clipboard. And the tool, this little warning is because it's local, but it's going to allow for that. And you'll see it'll drop the code in when it wakes up. Okay. There we go. And it also gives the name. If you just drop the style code, you have to give it its own name. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the style library, and I'm going to quickly generate a crystal chamber version with a bunch of options. So particularly with crystal chambers, the style options and the using functions really help there, because a lot of times you only have really simple animations and you only really have simple things. So you can actually fit more styles onto your config when you have multiple of these by using a using function and just repeating it out. And what you're going to do is build multiple options. So I'm going to do custom here, and I'm going to build a few different turbine. We'll do a random flicker, and then we'll do some off behavior. So I can have it just be off. We'll do a slow pulse. We'll do kind of flow down. I'm just grabbing these randomly just to fill it up. And then everything else, but now I'm going to grab this using function. And then again, I'm going to come here, and I'm going to add another using. Paste it. All right, so now, and you can build these out. And the idea for the using functions is if you're going to use it in more than one preset, this will actually, it'll first of all make the top section of your config a little bit smaller. But secondly, it will also make it so you're using less memory by repeating the exact same styles. And that's the concept for the options that came in OS 6, was to allow you to reuse the same style code over and over again, but have it be different on each preset, or have it just easy to edit and change. So I've got two using styles. And then what I'm going to come here now is in the actual preset section is I'm going to just not bother naming. You obviously have to name your font and your track and all that. But you can use, if you set up usings, you can use them from the drop down. So I'm going to grab my main blade, and I'm going to grab my crystal chamber. And then I'm going to do another preset. So this is my second preset here. I'm going to do the same thing. All right. And now this is the new part. And this works with either styles or usings. But since this is just a quick run through, I'm going to do it here. The new capability of the style art. So right now I have two presets set up using the exact same style code for both the main and the crystal. But if I want them to look different, I can now do that using the style arguments. And the new tool that I'm working on, so this is brand new. Again, it may be buggy because it was giving me a little bit of trouble. But the concept is when I click preview style, there's actually going to be a new screen that gets added. And it's actually going to read the style code for the using, and it's going to find what arguments are being used. So we'll click here, and you'll see it's going to find the styles, the arguments that are being used, and a few bugs. So it's got a few things going on in here. But the concept now is this is my using style that I've built. If I want it to be a different color for the main blade, so we'll do this one in blue, and I'm just going to randomly pick there. And then if I want to see, I have the option, some ignition options that I activated. So let's see what a different ignition option would look like. So it's running a little slow, and again, it's probably because this is local. So that had a power up on it. And let's do one that's maybe a little bit different. And I can change the ignition option, power up ignition. So that has a different power up effect on it. And that one was disabled. And then if I want to change any of the other options, I can. But what's going to happen is it's going to actually build out the argument string for you. And then when I close this preview now, you'll see it's created it in the style code. So these are what the style arguments actually are. And it's going to give it to you here. Now for my next one where it's the same main blade, I'm going to go again, preview. And this time let's make it a green. And we'll change the ignition to a different ignition option. So it's, like I said, there's still some bugs being worked out. And you could technically change the, let's make the ignition color stand up a little bit more. So now when I do a power up, it should be in blue for a second. And then so you get the concept, so you go through, build all these. And again, it's reading the actual style code to figure out what options are available to you. And then now that will be saved here. It's going to save those arguments into it. And now we've got our crystal chamber. So let's change the crystal chamber. So I'm going to change this crystal chamber here. I'm going to have it do, I think we did blue here, so I'll grab like a blue. And then we'll change it to a different effect while on. So that's the flicker. That's the slow rundown. And then while it's off, let's make it also a blue. A little different blue. So it's different. So while it's off, that's a different effect. And that's the Kyber flow in. So I can then build out this crystal chamber style. And then same thing here. We'll change how this crystal vapor is. So we're going to go here, do it in green. We'll make this one while it's on. We'll do kind of a flicker. Or what was the other option? Now we'll do that. That's the option, and then while it's off, we'll make it again a green. I know it's not the same color, I'm just picking. And then we'll change the off style to this. So when it's off, it has kind of a pulse. If I don't like that, I can change it. And this is all using one style code, but applying the options to it. And then now that's good. And now, so that's all handled for you through the interface. And because we're able to save what options you set up in the new config helper tool, they will be there for you when you come back. So if you come back to it, you can always make changes to them. So if I go back in and I decide, okay, I want to actually, I'd like to have it while it's off, do this. So go here and I can have that. You can make your edits coming back. And then we're just going to skip all the way down now to the bottom. And I'm going to generate a full config. And this is where the other part of this new tool and the setup that we did for OS 7 comes into play, is the using function simplify what your presets look like. So now you'll see these are the presets, and these are the style options here. And again, there's still a couple bugs in the mix that I have to fix because this should be in quotation marks, and it will be when it's ready. But it's putting all that code in for you, and then we added the config style section, which is this guy here. So that makes that all, it moves all the style code to the bottom of the config. So it just makes it so that the top section where you're editing and when you're seeing your presets is a lot cleaner. So this is a lot cleaner now than it would have been in the OS 6 version, but you still have all the information in your config. It's just we created a config style section, moved it to the bottom, and it makes it easier to read. And if I download this, you'll be able to see it. So if I download this config, and I'll just put it in my documents for now. And then if I open it up, so now this is what my config will look like. So it's obviously a lot cleaner looking here. And it's got the style arguments. Like I said, there's still bugs in this tool, so this isn't the finished product. It will obviously right now, because it's missing quotations and a few other pieces. But then at the bottom is where we put all the style. So we put all the style comments and everything within this new config style section. which again, this is more an aesthetic. So the config styles is an aesthetic change to let your preset section look cleaner and be leaner if you want. That's if you're using functions. The style arguments edition for OS 7 is to let you actually be able to set up ahead of time all of the options, all of the colors, and reuse those using functions. They also work for style code, so you can still do the style arguments within regular style code too. And that tool, the config tool, will let you do that as well. I just didn't demo that yet, so still working on it. It is a lot of changes to the config tool, which is why it's taking time. Plus, I have to debug stuff as it comes up. But that's kind of where the new tool is going to take you. Is it's going to make it so that you can always come back and you can make your changes to your config at any time and then download it again. And because we've added the using function support with the config style section as well as the style arguments, you're now going to be able to do all of the additions to your config for different presets, to have different colors, to have different options, different effects, etc., all within the config itself. You can still edit in ProffieOS Workbench. You can still edit through edit mode. And then, like I said, when this tool's done, I'll actually show you how you can actually take edits you've already done and apply them to these configs so that you can carry them over into the future updates, particularly if you're going to go from OS 6 to OS 7 and you've already done a bunch of edits in Workbench, already done a bunch of edits in edit mode. There is actually a process that you can do to take those edits out of your INI file and apply them to the config within this tool and then carry them forward in the future. So it's just to allow us to make it easy to update without having to worry about the INI file not being updated. And it allows you to keep those no matter what method you use. So you can use the config tool, edit the arguments within the config tool before you even upload. You can use ProffieOS Workbench, make them after you've uploaded. You can use edit mode, make them after you uploaded. But we're going to be able to carry all of that stuff forward and now make it part of your config so that it's always present wherever you have your saved config, because you do need to save your config all the time. So it made sense to move this stuff into the config as well. And obviously, Fredrik did a lot of the work to make that happen. I'm just working on tools that'll make it a little easier for users. So this is still a work in progress as I've been kind of getting time to play with it. I'm fixing a few things. A couple bugs are giving me every time I fix one, another one pops up. So it's slow to come, but I am working on it. So those of you who aren't really inclined to go the manual route with doing style arguments and doing using functions and all that, this tool is going to make it much easier. And it's also going to make it so that you can carry this forward as you do updates, as you do additions to your config. So still a lot of work to be done, but this is coming. So I did want to kind of just drop in a little bit of message because I know people are starting to kind of play with the beta and aren't sure how all this stuff fits together. These tools are in support of that. And also what Fredrik's doing with the style editor is going to be in support of that. So some of the stuff that seems really hard right now is because we're still in beta, but also the tools that kind of we've thought of to help users, they're not done yet because we have to build them. So they're in progress. So lots more to come. But hopefully this answers a few questions, gives a little bit of direction on the things that are in work. And obviously, as we move through beta and out of beta, I hope to have some of these tools ready. There is just a lot, obviously making all these updates as well as testing everything takes time. So more to come, and hope you enjoy.